All right. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon also to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And welcome to this edition of This Week in Review, the show in which we give you the rundowns of the goings on in entertainment, and we run the gamut, whether it's sports, whether it's film and television, whether it's, business, we discuss it. And of course, I am not alone in talking about these topics. I have the one and only Spillman. Let me bring him on now. What's going on, sir?
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a headache. Things are not going well for me. I have a headache. Brandon has been making fun of me. So let's get to these topics. But oh, I have a headache. I've been crying. I've been very sad. But we must persevere on.
But I appreciate it. I appreciate it that you're not ducking. You here. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna discuss it. Don't worry. We're gonna dive in. But before we get into that, we'll hit on our first topic, and that is surrounding a sequel that is crazy to believe. It has been 30 years, like 30 plus years since we've had this film, and that's none other than Cliffhanger. um, Over the course of this week, and this is a story out of Collider, there were some details surrounding, this film about, what's going to be done, because they had a chance to sit down with the director of this sequel. And he shared a lot of interesting details and in terms of like what the plans are, and where he's going to take inspiration from. Some things obviously that he name dropped recently was Top Gun, and he also commented on the Creed franchise as inspiration, in which we will have Gabriel, which is Stallone's character from the original, essentially passing the torch, to another generation. We understand some details that he gave is that we're going to have, his daughter, and then quote unquote like a pseudo son that he has, that will, also be in the same line of work. So, what are your thoughts on this spills of, after such a long period of time, returning back to this the world of this film?
I am just amazed, ladies and gentlemen, that there is such a thing as a cliffhanger nepo baby. I'm just amazed by this. We have gotten to the point in life where we're going to say, "Hey, my daddy used to hang from cliffs. I can hang from cliffs. I got all the cliffhangers, like the coach's tree. I'm from that cliffhanger coach's tree, which is a great thing. I like this movie. Back in the day, it was crazy. They had a video game that I never bought. I don't know anybody who ever.
Wow,
Do
I
you know
don't remember the
anybody that
video game. So
bought
it's,
the
you
cliffhanger
you
video
dropped some
game?
knowledge on me. I don't remember the game.
Yeah, they used to have the advertisements on comic books. I used to read them, but they used to have like cliffhanger is a great thing. I think it's good that they are passing it on because if I was with a 70-year-old man and he was supposed to save me off the cliff, I would just know I was dying. I would just know I was gonna die. So I'm happy that they moved him to, a coaching job. That's what he needs to do, a coaching job, which is kind of like what they did with Creed, which is good. But they're just trying to get these franchises re-going. And ladies and gentlemen, this is why we have to pay our writers, pay the writers, so we can get some good stuff. But I feel like this movie is from a commercial, like that Paramount commercial. They was in the mountains, so it was like, let's just do cliffhanger because they're in the mountains. I feel like somebody pitched this movie. Well, how do you feel about that?
So as I said, there are a lot of interesting, facets that the director does bring to in discussing this film. You can't go wrong in using a formula that has been demonstrated to work, and that's with Top Gun. However, and I've discussed this, numerous times before. When is kind of like the right time to do a sequel? And even when there's been an extended period of time, is there kind of a time where like you kind of lost your opportunity to do it? Some of the details that he does mention, in the interview, as I said, you can find it, exclusively in the interview that he does with the father. He does talk about one element that, as he goes into detail about it, it does shed light on something that they can take advantage of that they didn't have back then. And that thing that he comments on is sound. Really taking advantage of the technology that they have with sound and really immersing um, the audience in that world of climbing these mountains and all the peril that is involved in that, and to really capture that, there's an opportunity there to do that. But at the same time, I would say just overall, I'm kind of hesitantly excited or looking forward to it. I wasn't anticipating that we would get one. Like it worked perfectly fine as a one off, as he mentions that too in the article, is that this is one of the few films that Stallone has that has been a one off, because all the other ones have, in one shape or another, for the most part, have developed into franchises. And there's something to be said about that. There's a certain magic I feel of there just being one film, um, instead of kind of re re going back to that well when the well is fine. It's perfectly fine. You can leave it alone. So we'll see what happens. I'm hesitantly uh, intrigued by what he talked about with this film and the opportunities there. As I say, he talked about using those two films, Creed and Top Gun, as kind of his guide. And as I say, he talked about the two characters. He said that there was also going to be, which I'm a little hesitant about. There's going to be another tragic event apparently, similar to what we have in the in the prior film. Everyone knows what that is. It's been 30 years, so you know,
How else you gonna get to the cliff? Something bad has to happen if you end up at the cliff,
right.
man.
But like, so I'm curious to see what that tragic event is going to be that kind of plays a role in the new characters' lives aside from his own. But other than that, yeah, I'm just hesitantly intrigued. It's not something that I'm like dying to see, but I'm interested based on what he shared and some things that they're planning to do now. Like you said, we do have the writer strike happening right now, and we have all these other, you know, things, happening in Stallone with Stallone. Like he has all these other, projects that he's doing. He has the reality show, and he has a couple of other projects as well. So, it'll be interesting to see how long it takes for them to get it off the ground, because he ain't getting any younger, guys. So like,
No, he's not young.
and if
He's
you
not
guys are really
younger.
trying to capture
He's old.
realism, like,
He done fell off that
now
mountain
is
a
the
long time
time to
ago.
really
Yeah,
get that film going, because you're gonna start losing that sense of realism, as you
they
said,
lost
of,
it.
of having that character rock climbing. So just saying. But
It's
any
all
other
over body
thoughts?
strength. No, I'm just. Thanks, Fly. We love you, but I feel like this is a reach. I don't feel like I can pay money for this movie. I hope it's on Paramount. If it's on Paramount, I might see it because it'll be on my TV and I won't have to do any work. But if I have to get in my car, drive somewhere, I'm not paying money to see an old man climb up a mountain. Just not. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So there you have it.
Yeah.
Um, so switching gears, speaking of another sequel, yet this is a sequel that has, continuously, had installments versus having, large breaks in between their installments, and that's none other than Mission Impossible. So they extended some news this week, or I should say, first extended new. They dropped a new trailer
Oh
of
yeah.
Dead Reckoning, Part One, and they gave us, a further look of course, a lot of the tropes that we expect out of a Mission Impossible film. Of course, there's some, huge, major, stunt, which has become a staple of the franchise. We see some old faces returning, which is cool. Spillman, what are your thoughts on what we got from the the latest trailer that was, recently released a few days ago.
So I've learned something about the Mission Impossible universe. In the Mission Impossible universe, cars lose all their doors. So no matter what happens, I saw like three or four whole cars that were driving, still driving, no doors. They don't believe in doors in the Mission Impossible universe, and I think that's
That's
pretty
fair.
pretty cool. That's very cool. I like that. I like we got to get up out of here. Just get in the car. We're driving away. We're driving away. Forget the property damage. We're just going to knock these doors off and just keep on riding. But put your seatbelts on, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's going to be an entertaining movie, like you said. They touch on a lot of the Mission Impossible themes, like there's a train chase and stuff where they lie real flat, which is real cool. So I'm excited for it. I saw a big range for like 4 seconds in it, so I'm down with it. I think it's going to be a good movie. Um, you know, Tom Cruise, he is small in stature in real life, but he looks big up on that screen. So I think it's going to be a good movie. He did real good with the Top Gun movie, so I don't see why it wouldn't be a good movie. And they haven't let Tom Cruise get too old to do these movies. Tom Cruise still looks like the guy from Mission Impossible. He looks like he could be a guy you see at the gym every day. That looks possible. It wouldn't look like, kind of too old to be in the gym. He looks like he still keeps up. So I like this. I agree with you on that.
So, I mean, Mission Impossible, you can't go wrong with. Unlike a lot of franchises that feel like they kind of just run out of steam and they're just there just for the sake of being there, just to print money, just
Mm-hmm.
based off of recognition. One thing that I can give this franchise credit is that it doesn't rest on its laurels. Like, one thing that Cruz is very passionate about is making sure that his audiences, are getting their money's worth in terms of not just what the story has to offer, but what the action has to offer in these franchises. And that's,
Mm-hmm.
that's saying something, in a day and age where a lot of films are very CG heavy. And it's not to say that there's not CG in Mission Impossible films, but
Oh.
I feel like there is a concerted effort to provide as much. I know we were talking about Cliffhanger a moment ago, to provide as much realism as possible, where a lot of the actors are doing as much of the stunts as they possibly can versus relying on, a lot of like CG, doubles and all of these like larger than life or um hyper real, situations where you really have to, suspend your disbelief, of of what's possible or what humans are able to do in reality.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's so much suspense that can be had when there is as much, realism as possible. I feel like because in some such situations things have become so over the top, we've gotten a little jaded with the suspense portion because we know, audiences are a lot more sophisticated and they understand, okay, yeah, that's not real. Like I know that wasn't the actual actor, or I know that, they use some CG to kind of enhance that. So
Yeah.
um that's one thing that I will definitely, give credit to with Mission Impossible. It's consistently good, and there's always you always can count on Cruise to be consistent in ensuring that he is as authentic as possible when it comes to the action. So I don't know what your thoughts on are.
I think that he just, he does his thing. He keeps his body in shape, and he's not too old yet. That's what we like about him. He's not too old. Like he's in his prime, he's in his later prime, but he's still a big jungle cat. He jumps on people in the movies and does what he's supposed to do. I
Hey,
appreciate
well,
that
he's a
about him.
big daredevil, man. Like some of
Yeah,
the stuff like that he, is willing to do in these movies, and you just like,
he's
I
getting
can't
too
believe
old
he did.
for
And
it.
I'm
He's
like,
getting too old for
bro,
it for sure. It's like you don't have to do this no more.
yeah,
But he
it's
still
like
does it,
insane. You're
and I
like,
love him
bro,
for
are
it.
you serious? So, uh, did you have any thoughts before we dive into some sports?
No. I just think that before we say anything about sports, remember that somebody's team is actually in the conference finals. Somebody else's team is at home watching it. So I just wanted to throw that shot over the bow before we get started, just before because we're going to talk about some things. And
Oh,
Doesn't look
no
good.
worries.
It doesn't
I
look
we had
good.
already settled that and addressed that on our prior show, so
Yeah.
that's already handled. So let's dive in to where we are with the NBA. And there are a couple of stories, NBA stories, as a matter of fact, that I want to get into, and that is not just about the playoffs. It's about two matters regarding one potential coach being hired and another one that has been given the door, so to speak. So we have Doc Rivers, who was the coach of the 76ers over the course of this week. He was let go. And we also received news regarding Mark Jackson, interviewing for a potential head coaching spot, and that's with the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the thing that's interesting about this, and we're going to go over some of the matchups with the playoffs, going. Two of these coaches, one who's potentially heading in his role, in as a possible head coach, and the other one leaving. It has been a casualty of the NBA playoffs. So, what are your thoughts just with these or two players, excuse me, these two head coaches? While I pull up the standings of where things stand.
Oh no, we don't need to do that. But
We are.
so I think that Mark Jackson may be a good fit in Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee really lost something when they let um, what's his name that plays in Philly now, the power forward.
And he's on the tip of my tongue. I know who you're talking about, but yeah,
PJ Tucker.
yeah.
PJ Tucker. When they let PJ go, I feel like they lost something because they needed somebody to stretch the floor and to grab rebounds when when Giannis is on the perimeter. But I think that Mark Jackson can work with him. But I don't know if Mark Jackson's that innovative. He had Draymond on his bench and played David Lee over him. I know they probably had a New York connection because David Lee played with the Knicks, but that's unconscionable to me. So we'll see how good of a coach he is. I don't know who could say bad about Doc Rivers getting fired, but he had the MVP and they got eliminated by a team that had a bunch of no names on it. I don't know nobody that was on that team. Um, oh no, wait, they was playing the Celtics, weren't they?
Yeah, they were playing the Celtics. So I was like, "What are you
Okay,
talking
well, never
about?"
mind, never mind. I
You
thought
thinking
they
of
had
the last
Miami. I'm
round?
sorry.
You thinking of
No, I
prime
thought they
round?
had Miami. I
Yeah,
thought they
yeah,
played
yeah.
Miami. I'm sorry, because Miami, if Miami beats you with Jimmy Butler and who he picked up when he walked in the gym, you deserve to get your coach fired because that's terrible. How we got guys who you didn't know three of the guys that start for the Heat every game before the playoffs started. I didn't know them. Their mom was probably the only people that knew that they played in the NBA. They probably have to tell girls at the club, "Hey, I play in the NBA," and they'd be like, "No, you don't," and then he'd be like, "Yeah, I do for real. Look," and he pulls up his like Wikipedia page. So I'm just, you know, sorry for Doc, but he's just got to do better. You can't have the MVP and a former MVP and not make the conference finals, especially in this day and age. Especially when your MVP doesn't have somebody who can guard him on the other team. He let he let a 48-year-old what you call it um, Al Horford and two real tall dudes beat him. You don't know who the two tall dudes are that play for the Celtics. I don't know who they are, but they beat him somehow. So I think it's time for Doc to go. Unfortunately, he's holding that team back, but really it might be James Harden's holding them back, or the fact that the big fella doesn't really play that much. If he played all the time, he'd maybe win more, but he doesn't play. So I don't
No,
know.
I hear you. I hear you. I mean, here's the thing. So you have James Harden, you have the whole situation surrounding him, you have
Hmm.
the prior relationship with Ben Simmons that went awry as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you know, I've it's been discussed that played a role in him leaving and him being let go, um, because there was an assumption that him and Harden had a decent relationship. However, in a recent interview, I don't know if you checked it out, where his response and his feelings towards Rivers, it seemed kind of it didn't seem the at the best. Let's put it that way in terms of like his response of how he felt about
I
Rivers.
think Embiid was the guy. I think Embiid liked Rivers better. I
Yeah,
don't think that
yeah, for
Harden
sure,
liked him better.
for sure,
But you know,
for sure.
Harden wants to play Bel Air Academy ball again now.
For sure. But all right, let's dig into the current standings right now. As you said, the Lakers. You have the Lakers and Nuggets in the conference finals. But the Lakers, are find their hands a little full with the Nuggets right now. So, I mean, I know the Lakers are your team. I'm gonna give you the floor. What are your thoughts on what the issue has been? In my personal opinion, I would say that y'all haven't really had an answer for Jokic, but maybe you have other thoughts, sir.
All right,
Oh, it's a
ladies
little
and
quiet.
gentlemen, I'm
It's a little
just going to
quiet.
let you guys know I'm rubbing my eyes here because I've been crying because we playing real bad. It hurts my feelings when we play like this, ladies and gentlemen. It really hurts my feelings, makes me sad. But my team is actually in the conference finals. I don't know about everybody else on this podcast or this live stream that have a team in the conference finals. Like I am going to watch them at 8:30 tonight. 8:30, I'm gonna turn on my TV and I'm gonna watch them. It's gonna be wonderful. I know of no one else who can do that about their basketball team. So, you see it, ladies and gentlemen, you see it. But we're going to get back on track in Los Angeles. It's very thin air up there. We're trying to get used to it. LeBron has looked uncharacteristically kind of like wobbly. I haven't really seen a real LeBron game from LeBron yet. Um, I think we wasted a 40 game from AD. People say he didn't play good last game, but he had like 5 blocks and 20 points and like 15 rebounds. Like, I feel like we lost that game two especially. We lost it because he hit a three. Then he got greedy and thought he was going to hit another one. I was like, no, 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 that's not what we need. And he took it like with 18 seconds left in the shot clock, and that killed the mo. Once he took that shot, everybody was like, why would you take that shot? So we will see what my Lakers can do. But I think we'll win game three. So I think we'll win tonight. And then we'll have to win on Monday. If we can win on Monday, then it's a series again. So, we just lost 2 home games. They're the best team in the league right now. Joker is a monster. He is a monster. I underestimated him.
People
He's
keep
come a long way
sleeping
since
on my man's
2020.
name.
He
People
came a
keep
long way
sleeping.
since 2020 because Anthony Davis ate
Keep
his lunch in
sleeping.
2020.
So yeah, I mean, it that I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect it to go in the way that it has been going. I thought it was going to be pretty even. But again, that's a shout out to Jokic for really demonstrating who should have won the MVP, this season. And it's no
Oh, yeah.
slight against Embiid. Embiid had a terrific season, but I feel like it was more so because of the circumstances of that consecutive component
Oh,
that
yeah.
that they were trying to break
They
to
try to call that man
to give
LB.
it to give the award to someone else, but
Yeah.
maybe who knows, maybe this is what Jokic needed. Maybe he needed the diss of not getting that MVP to have the showing that he's having now. A lot of
He took
times
it
having that
personally.
diss gives you that motivation. So maybe this is the juice that he needed in order to be to do perform the way he's been performing thus far in the playoffs. um so similarly, we have a 2-0 series lead between the Heat and the Celtics right now. Again, the Heat balling out. No one anticipated that they would be having the postseason that they've been having, but Butler has been carrying that team and leading them along with the coaching from Spolstra. So it'll be interesting to see if the Celtics are able to dig themselves out of this hole, because just based on how the momentum is going right now, you know it's hard to picture that they're going to beat beat the Heat 4 consecutive times, or say four more times. I maybe based on how things are going now, I'll give the Celtics maybe 2 games. I'm picturing that it might be a wrap. I don't know. Maybe it may be too early. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but just based on the momentum that it seems like the Heat has been having thus far, it doesn't seem like they are stopping that momentum anytime soon.
I just think Jimmy Butler's a bad man, dog. I just, what can you say about him? He's like, I don't care about any of this stuff. I'm gonna
Because they're
wear
playing, they're
long
basically
braids,
playing with house money. They're playing with house
house
money. No
money,
one
because
anticipates them to be doing anything.
they won the first 2 games. Those were in Boston. They came in and punched him in the face twice, 2 times in Boston. This
Yeah,
is crazy. This is unprecedented.
yeah.
It's just crazy. I think that the Celtics probably needed to get a more seasoned coach for games like these, because I don't feel like the coach is he's really not running the offense or anything. It's just kind of run up and down the court and 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 just toss the ball between Brown and Tatum. That's not winning basketball. You can't win a basketball game like that. The other 3 guys are just kind of standing there looking at him. Marcus Smart sometimes gets the ball, but it never seems like there's any cohesion. This is why Doc Rivers got fired, because this team is very beatable. It's just kind of, I just don't understand what they're going to do, because if they're going home to Miami, they're going to have trouble in Miami, because those other guys are going to be playing much better because they'll be at home. So we'll see.
Yeah.
This might be a sweep.
I I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I think I feel like the Celtics have more pride than that. I don't feel like they're going to get like a clear sweep. I feel like they'll at least still 2 games, if not 1 game, based on how things are going now. But I don't think it's going to be a sweep. But it's still undeniable the momentum that the Heat have been having going into this postseason, and it is looks like one of those circumstances where they're just a moving train, and like there hasn't been anyone to kind of stop them to pull those tracks away, so to speak. So, um, all right. So, did you have any other final thoughts about your Lakers or anybody
I
else?
just want to say that we've never lost to the Nuggets in the playoffs. We always beat them. Even if they think that they could beat us, we might lie down and play possum when we're out there in that area stadium. But we are coming. We're coming and we're going to win, ladies and gentlemen. I have faith in us. Don't you smile like that, Brandon. You know that they're good. We're going to go to the top. Lakers all the way.
Fair deal, fair deal. All right. So switching gears into the world of film in the MCU, if you will, there has been news regarding wrestler Seth Rollins joining Captain America: New World Order. Over the course of this week, there were videos, photos, as well as set video of Rollins on the set of Captain America: New World Order, and based off of what the attire that he had, many are speculating that he's going to be a member of the New Serpent Society. And if many of you remember, if anyone knows the history regarding the prior Captain America film, Civil War, initially, the path that they were going to take was with Serpent Society. However, they would later decide to adapt Civil War instead of going that route. So perhaps in this new film, in New World Order, they're going to play a role. Many have been speculating. So, what are your thoughts on Rollins as an addition to the MCU spills?
I'm interested in it. I think he is going to be a good addition. He's good in the WWE. I think, wrestlers make good superhero movie characters because they look like superheroes. I mean, we're working with money in the bank right here. He's got a pretty big following online. I know that I don't follow wrestling too hard, but my friends on Twitter do, and those guys we talk about Seth Rollins almost as much as they talk about anybody else. So I think that if he can have that kind of magnetism in the wrestling world, I'm sure that he'll be great in this movie. I know he's a bit of a villain on there, so him being in the Serpent Society is good. I'm interested in it. I won't speculate to which member he will be, but that is interesting. I think if it's somebody with this much cachet, like Rollins, he's probably gonna be something prominent. So I expect to see him in more than just this. He might pop up on an MCU show or something like that. So, what do you think?
So my guess is this because it kind of gives me his casting edition gives me some deja vu of what happened with Winter Soldier. I'm
Hmm.
brain farting on the actor's name, but he's known as I want to say in the UFC, and he ended up being cameoing as a comic character. I'm brain farting
Hmm.
on the character that he played too. I feel bad, but it was he played one of like the mercenaries, the main mercenaries that Captain America
Hmm.
fought. He
Hmm.
actually cameoed, if I recall. I don't know if you ended up seeing Falcon and Winter Soldier. He actually cameoed at the top at the beginning of Falcon and Winter Soldier because they had some carryover of Winter
Yeah.
Soldier in that film, or say in that show. So my guess is they're kind of doing something similar here, where he will be a member of the Serpent Society. He may not, in typical Marvel fashion, they may not kill him off. Like they may actually have the character uh appear later, like maybe as a one-off where he gets defeated at the top. So maybe I know a lot of people are saying because there's so seeing that there's so much going on in this film, allegedly, with Red Hulk and with adamantium and all of these various story elements.
Hmm.
Maybe this might be how like in the last couple of Captain America films we've had that like initial mission that kind of like happens in the first act. A lot of
Yeah.
people are saying that that's how they're going to kind of treat the Serpent Society, where they'll kind of be a foil or an opponent
Well,
for
they're B level
Captain
super
America.
villains, though. They
Yeah.
are B level super villains,
So and I mean that will work perfectly fine and work perfectly in line if they decide to go that way, because it still allows them the opportunity, even if it's kind of like a element in the first act. Even if we never see the characters again in the movie, it still provides them an introduction. So that way, if they ever pop up somewhere else, whether it's in a movie, whether it's in any of the series that we have, the Disney Plus series, they can do so without their, having to give further explanation of who they are. So,
yeah, for sure. I
so
think it's going to be the Constrictor. That's what I think. What character do you think in the Serpent Society?
I'm a little shaky on my Serpent Society. I
That's what
could
I'm saying. They're
see
big great
I
villains.
could see if he I can see him being Constrictor. I mean, only
Yeah,
time
he's
will
got the
tell. If
color
he ends up
scheme.
being Constrictor, I'll give you the shout out on here, and we'll,
Oh
we'll
yeah, for sure,
I will
for sure.
repost this clip so people can see,
And
all the
do it where I
awesome,
say it real
like,
slow and cool.
yeah,
Be like,
yeah.
I think
I'll
he's
give you
going
your
to be the
flowers, so to speak.
Constrictor.
I'll give you your
Yeah,
flowers, so to
yeah.
speak.
There you
There
go.
you
There you go.
go. But any other final thoughts before we move on, of
No.
talking about some other, news that is rather interesting that I'm actually am excited about.
Okay. Yeah. Let's get to it.
Okay. All right. So, over the course of this week, we did get some news in the world of Mortal Kombat. So, not only did we get a look at the upcoming trailer for what's known as Mortal Kombat 1, or we could say AKA Mortal Kombat 12, we also got news regarding a cast addition to the upcoming Mortal Kombat sequel, and that's none other than Tati Gabrielle, who many of you, if you guys follow her work, she was a mainstay in the Netflix series, the Chilling Adventures, excuse me, of Sabrina, which is I feel is a really underrated show. If you enjoy those series from back in the day, like Buffy and a lot of those other shows of that ilk, of that type. Sabrina would be very much up your alley in terms of bringing elements of like magic, of like horror. It brought like so many different elements, and she was outstanding in it. in many cases, like even when she was in the in those scenes with the title character, she stole those scenes. So I would show the trailer, but I do not want to get demonetized based on how
That's right.
graphic the trailer is. But I know you had a chance to see it, Spillman. What are your thoughts first on the trailer that we got for uh Mortal Kombat 1, because I don't know if you had a chance to keep track of like what has happened in the prior installment, which is why we have this quote unquote pseudo reboot, and then afterwards share your thoughts on the casting edition with the movie sequel.
So I'm interested in Mortal Kombat 1. I spent way too much time in the 90s playing Mortal Kombat. It's one of the great games of all times. I spent a lot of times in laundromats and other places playing Mortal Kombat, so I'm interested in it. She looks cool. I think her character is going to be. I think that. Oh, she's going to be Jade,
Yeah,
or
she's
is,
gonna
is
be
her name?
Jade.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I also, speaking of Mortal Kombat, just not to go on a tangent, I saw on the new game that they've got John Claude Van Damme as a selectable character for
Yeah.
Johnny
Yeah.
Cage,
Fun
which is
trivia fact.
which is
He was supposed
mwah.
to be, a part of the original film.
Hmm.
And it didn't, didn't come to be. So I'm glad that they were still able to come full circle with that of having him, be a
Oh yeah, yeah. So yeah, I'm interested in it. I think she's a good casting. She's got the look of a Mortal Kombat character. She looks like she could kick some butt and rip off a face and reveal a monstrous like
Oh, you thinking of Melina, homie.
secret.
You thinking
No,
Melina.
I mean, Jade could have that power too. I mean, doesn't she have, or does she spit acid? I think she spits acid.
No, you thinking of Reptile. Reptile. I
Mm,
know that there was like a female version of that, but yeah, nah.
mm,
Jade, um she's like the I guess you could say the ace boom coom, so to speak, of Katana, and also acts as her like her bodyguard, her protector.
yeah. Mm.
So
Well, no, I just think that just I went off on a tangent, but she still will be pretty good at playing that kind of character. So I think it's a good casting. And the movie will be pretty good. So we'll see.
we'll
We'll
see.
see. That first one, they got to come up with a great song though, because that first one, oh my God, that first Mortal Kombat movie song, Mortal Kombat,
Yeah, I
excellent,
know, I know, I know.
excellent.
I mean, what they did with the soundtrack with the recent film, I understand what the intention was. And I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. I just feel that like that's a hard thing to follow up. That is such an iconic, theme song that in with anybody it would have
Oh,
been hard to find a follow-up to. So I feel like the best what they went with is completely understandable, because you want to do something different, because you don't want to kind of touch something that it can't really be done. You want to go in a different direction, and the best way that I can compare to is uh when they did Alien, and they were deciding that they were doing a sequel, and Cameron, decided that instead of kind of revisiting that wheel of doing a same claustrophobic type of story, he made it into an action film. And I feel like that's what they did with the music there. They try to go in a different direction because you really can't, touch the original, so you have to do something different. Um, Now, and speaking of Gabrielle, she's, as I said, if anyone, no one has seen, and it's they've ended the show, but if no one has seen the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, I recommend it to you. Um, if you enjoy, like I said, any stories that have like fantasy, supernatural elements, or horror, um, it marries a lot of those elements very well. She's really great in that series. So if you haven't seen her in it, I would definitely say to check it out. I know she's been in other stuff too, but I feel like if you check out that series, you can kind of get a picture of how she would be an outstanding Jade. Because I mean, there are some characteristics that her character has in that show that would give you a tease or a picture of how her Jade would be. So any further thoughts? I mean, there are some there is one other element that has been interesting, and I know that there had been the news that Johnny Cage had also been cast as well, with cat from the boys. I'm brain farting on one of the main actors from the boys. I'm brain farting on the actor's name at this point. But did you have any additional thoughts, spills, final?
No, I'm just we love Mortal Kombat. Uh, it's great. I'm excited to see it.
Carl
We'll
Urban,
see.
thank you, Carl Urban. That's
There
what I
you go.
was. Yeah, but yeah, for sure, definitely looking forward to the game, and see what they have in store. Did you have a chance to play like the prior game? Did you get around to playing
Of
11?
course, man. I
Yeah,
played all
I
the
was gonna
Mortal
say because I
Kombat
know like
games.
it's interesting on what they're doing there of trying to do a kind of a soft reboot of the story. It'll be interesting to see how many characters they bring back and in what way they bring them back, because it looks like they're kind of doing a soft uh change or reboot in the characters themselves too, where like
Yeah,
there have
updating
been
some of their
there's
stories.
schisms between certain characters from the original
Hmm.
lore, and now they're kind of changing it around a little bit, which I welcome, because I mean we've had that story for years and years and years. It's
Hmm.
good to kind of turn it on its head and show it in a different way. No longer having rating in that role, but having Liu Kang in that role, and then also having the other characters still have some semblance of who they are as characters, but turning it on its head a little bit in terms of like the relationships that they have with other characters. So it
Yeah,
could
for sure.
offer some like interesting story elements. All right, but without further ado, I know you are fresh off of seeing it, while I am a couple of days marinated in seeing the film. We are going to dive in to talking about Fast X. So um, I'll pass the baton to you, because I do have some thoughts on it, but seeing that it is fresh in your head, just initial impressions. What were your thoughts on the film?
I thought it was a good film. I really do not like when Hollywood makes two-part movies or one movie into two parts where they just split it right down the middle. That gets on my nerves. I don't really like when they do that. I don't like when they did it with The Hobbit, with Lord of the Rings. I didn't like it when they did it with the last Harry Potter movie. I do not like that, Hollywood. I know you're trying to make your money. I get it. But this could have been one movie. I don't. I get you trying to get your $30. I know you're trying to get your $30. I'm mad at you. But it was a good spectacle. They went to very random places. This movie does like have that same thing that you were talking about earlier, where they do stuff in the computer that's so ridiculous that it's like, hold on, buddy. Hold on, buddy. Hold on. So I'm gonna let you talk about that a little bit because that was your tangent. I'm gonna let you go off. Go off, King.
All
Go
right,
off.
fair deal, fair deal. So okay, when it comes to Fast and Furious, I enjoy it for the insanity that it is, just to see how far they're going to take things. It becomes, yeah, at this point it's very fun to see how ridiculous it gets. But I will say there are elements in there where like you're like, come on, dude. Like there were a couple of parts there where I was like, why are the characters behaving this way, or why are people behaving this way in this type of circumstance? One example that I'll give you, and I don't know if you even thought you even like pictured this when you were watching the movie. And I'm sorry, guys. If you guys haven't seen the movie, obviously it says spoilers down below. So we're gonna get into spoilers. So this is your last chance before like I really dive in. We only just like touched on it some things just now, but I'm gonna dive in now. So this is your last chance in three, in two, and in one. All right. So in speaking to like some of the ridiculous things where I was like, come on, dude. You have the scene which is in the trailer, but I'm gonna in watching the film, I'm gonna expand upon it. Where we have that the huge bomb, right? So
Mm-hmm.
when you have that scene where it's acting like a pinball, going through the city, and you have that moment where they're trying to stop it, Dom is trying to stop it, and you have law enforcement shooting at him. I'm like, why are you shooting at him in the direction? Like, do you understand that like by shooting at it, you're endangering everyone who is in the vicinity? Why are you shooting at the assailant and the bomb at the same time? Like, what are you doing? Like, and I'm like, and it was on top of that, it was on fire.
It
So
was
I'm
on
like,
fire and it was rolling down the hill, crashing through things, but it didn't explode until it hit the guy,
it just
the water.
conveniently nothing happened until it reached the water. And then on top of
He
that
had to push the
too,
button for it. Like,
like a pinball again, somehow Dom makes the decision that he's going to use his car to hit the crane to knock it into the water and then conveniently land on the side of the wall and not have any injuries whatsoever.
no radiation poisoning.
Nothing.
Because this isn't just a bomb, ladies and gentlemen.
Nothing, bro.
This is a tactical nuclear device.
I
It's
was
not
like,
just
bro,
a
come on.
bomb. It's not just a bomb. Like it would be kind of like, okay, this is a bomb. That's scary. Bombs are scary. No, this was a nuclear bomb. Like, and the thing that's crazy is they set off a nuke in Vatican City, and the world didn't go crazy. Like, they were still partying. People like they went to Brazil. They went to Brazil after they blew off a nuclear device in front of the Vatican, one of the most Catholic countries in the entire world. And they were just like, "Hey, buddy, how's it going?" They just were happy to see you. I just do
And
not
like, okay,
understand it.
between that and between there was another scene that like drove me up the wall was, and this is in the trailer by the way. It was when the missile was shot over in the direction of Dom, and he got out of the vehicle after it had been like, destroyed and put thrown upside down, completely unscathed, no scratches, nothing.
This is
I'm like,
the
who is this?
family.
Captain America? Like
This is the
what's
family.
going on here?
Dom
Like,
Toretto.
so yeah, there are a lot of scenes like that where it's like, or even, and don't get me wrong, the sequence is really awesome. The sequence between Cypher and Letty, that was really cool. Like the fight was cool, but I'm like, there's no way they would have survived that. No one, neither one of them would have survived that fight based off
No.
of everything that transpired in that fight. I'm like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on, like,
It was just so
what are we
much.
doing here?
But again, ladies and gentlemen, he was at like a nuclear bomb blew up in front of him, like right in front of him. All of the fission and stuff, the waves, like he rode the wave like a surfboard in his car. He was like, and he flew across. It was amazing. He hung 10 on a nuclear bomb's wake. Then he didn't have radiation poisoning. No one seemed to be mad at him. But then also, like, the character that what's the guy the ladies love? What's his name? My girlfriend loves this guy. Lisa Bonet's husband. What's her name? What's his name?
Oh, Momoa.
Jason Momoa. He's pretty diabolical in it, but we will say they kind of make him a villain that's kind of non-binary, and I feel like that's weird to make him the bad guy. And be
Well,
like, he's weird because he paints his
he has
toenails.
gone on record and said that that's what he was going for. So like it
Okay.
wasn't like a accidental like choice, and then that's how it turned out. Like that's what he was going for. Um, but aside from that I one other thing that I did want to touch on is just that idea of, if you are going to introduce something with a character, don't have it be a random thing that just comes out of left field, out of nowhere. We have characters that up to this point have not demonstrated any type of fighting prowess whatsoever, and now all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden, like they're like John Wick, where they have all of these like fighting skills. And I'm like, where did this come from? Like Cypher up to this point has not fought anybody. Like, no, we had no idea that she was capable of doing all of that. If she was
Right.
capable of doing all of that, I'm like, how did you like get captured in the last movie? You would have been able to be far more successful in 8 and Fate of the Furious, like, because you're not just a tech head, you're not just a hacker, like you actually can fight. And I'm like, so we missed out on her being demonstrating that she could do all of this and was capable of all this, and we're just now seeing that she's capable of doing this. Same thing goes for Han. Like, Han can't take on Deckard Shaw. Like, what? Like, he can't take
But
on
he
Shaw.
ate that cupcake, so he was in a
Nah, bro.
zen place.
He can't take on Deckard
He was
Shaw.
drunken
Like, come on,
master. When
bro.
you're drunken master, you go fight better when you're drunk.
Nah, nah.
That's what
I
I
can't
heard.
give a
I
pass
heard
to
you can
that. Like,
fight better if you're
there were
drunk.
instances of that where I'm like, I'm cool with them being able to do it, but you have to establish already that they can do this stuff, because if you just bring it out of the blue, I'm gonna use my logic, my adult logic of why wasn't this utilized in a prior installment, because it would have brought something else to the prior installment
Maybe she
if
was
we
training. She was
strictly
training.
brought it.
It's been time. There's been a time that's passed. So she was like,
Because I
"Hey,
feel
you
like
doing
it's just
more?"
convenient that because they had that opportunity to do that type of scene between her and Letty. That's the only reason why they demonstrated that she could fight like that. Otherwise, if we never got that scene, we probably might not have gotten it in any other installment, which would be a shame, because Charlize Theron, people sleep on Charlize Theron as a action star. She's
Oh
demonstrated
no,
time and time again in many movies that
she's a
she's done that
thug.
she can
She is.
fight. So
Yeah, for sure. But I just think that just like you're saying, just like this fight scenes and stuff. This movie could have been 2 hours, and it could have had both sides. They just made it a longer movie so they can make more money. This movie was an hour 41 minutes. I don't know why it was an hour 41 minutes. It was like a lot of times where
no, it's
people are
actually
just
longer than
standing
that.
around.
It's over 2 hours. It's for sure over 2 hours.
Hour. I mean, I'm sorry. 141 minutes. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. 141 minutes is
Yeah,
the
it's
runtime.
for sure over
Because
2 hours.
I sat down for the movie at 12:30. I got there right when it started. I got there 12:30. I didn't leave the theater till 3:50. So I mean 2:50. So that's too long. That's like you roasted a fine goose or something. Like what is this? I don't have time for this.
So I don't think it's too long. Here's my thing. Like, if you're going to do a type of story where you're going to split your story into parts, I take issue when the decision is made after the fact, which is what it seems like, to extend the story forward, because originally it was only going to be 2 parts, and now I'm understanding that it's going to end up being 3 parts.
How?
so
How?
so I'm understanding there's going to be 3 parts, but here's my issue with this. Even if you were only going to do 2 parts, how come you didn't? Because it doesn't seem like that's the case. It looks like they're going to go back and film the rest of it. How come you didn't just shoot it all together, you know, for this second part? Because I understand like the second part is going to come out in 2 years. So I mean, they're going to go back and shoot it, but like,
Why?
you're going to pick up, why are you going to shoot it as if it's a whole separate film when you left it on a cliffhanger, and now we're going to have to suspend our disbelief of characters aging, like based on how they left it. So now, in the same timeline of what happened at the dam with him and his kid, he's going to be like 2 years old in the same sequence. And so when you watch it all together, it's going to be weird when you have like a kid who's like 9 and now he's like 12
He's
in the
time jumping.
same scene,
You have an eye patch or something
right?
crazy. Like, hey, continuity on this is real messed up.
Bro. So like I get it when you shot it together as one piece and you split it into 2 parts and you're
But he's not in
separating
that many
the
scenes.
release
They
by a
probably
couple of
just film
months.
his scenes now. I think they'll just
But
film his scenes
but if
now.
you're going back to shoot it, Like, I feel like there's so much, difficulty in doing that, and just like you said, in the continuity pieces that may come into play. Um, and I will also, speaking of that, I want to get into the reveals that they had. So at the very end, we got the reveal that what is it, Giselle is
Hmm.
still alive and kicking.
And she
Again,
got a submarine.
why did it take this long for her to show back up? Because they could have
She was
used
in the
her help.
submarine. You be on those six
They could
months
have
at a
used her
time
help.
out to sea. You
And
don't
then of
come back
course,
in and out with a submarine.
and I was gonna
That's
say, and then of
understandable.
course the return of the Rock as well, which up to this point we had the idea that he wasn't gonna come back. But
We knew
like I
he was
said, I
gonna
have some
come back.
theories on that. No, it's not even that. The irony being what's happened over at DC. Now that we have two of those actors that are no longer playing their roles over in the DC universe, now they've headed back over to the Fast family. They headed back to the family, so to speak,
It's a
to
family.
join in those final installments. Because I trust and believe if the DC universe was still going, it wouldn't have happened, in my opinion. But you know, conveniently, now that the DC universe, at least for them, is come to a halt, because who knows, down the line, they may end up doing a multiverse or some type, and having them be involved, as they say, as the new guard over at DC has allegedly said, that there's an opportunity to do some multiverse stories, whether you want to believe that or not. But I just find it fascinating that those two additions, you could logically account for it being related to what's happened over at DC in both cases. So but what are your thoughts on having both of those characters return?
I think that's cool. I knew The Rock was going to come back because that's money. It's not like he's just going to walk away from money. He's if you give Rock $5 million, he would do your project or more. If you give, I feel like $5 million, he'll say yes to $5 million, and they pay him way more than that on these movies. So I think he was going to come back eventually. He had a problem with them, and they definitely kept him and Tyrese separate. So that's how you get him back. You don't like that Tyrese. And Tyrese is real corny in this movie. Not to go backwards, but Tyrese, how have you become such a like? I don't know how Tyrese. Like how sometimes people will do a movie and then there'll be that character from that movie and everything else they do after that. I feel like Tyrese, ever since he's done Baby Boy, it's been Baby Boy everything, and it's amazing he still gets away with it at his old age. But then he acts like that in real life, so maybe it's just that's just Tyrese. He's just himself in movies, which is awesome. Hopefully one day me and Brandon will be in movies, and then we'll be ourselves, and they'll be like they're just being themselves. They stealing money.
We shall see.
Yeah,
You never know. Stranger things have happened, right?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but any final thoughts of the film as a whole? As I said, like, I had a lot of fun. There were the action scenes are it's Fast and Furious film. The action scenes, you never have a want of having fun with the action scenes, no matter how over the top or hilariously ridiculous they may be. There is a fun element to that. And Jason Momoa's character, I feel is a lot of fun in this film, more so
Oh
than
yeah,
many of the other, like, Fast and Furious villains that we've had in the
random suit
past.
dudes. Yeah, random
um,
suit
I
dudes.
could probably count offhand, some of the villains that I feel, while some have been enjoyable, a lot of them have kind of been, take them or leave them. They haven't been too memorable. But any final thoughts before we wrap up here?
No, I think that the Fast and Furious movies they're gonna get the $15 from me or you probably in 2 years. They could probably get it from us next year, so whatever. There was a lot of cool cars. We poo poo in this movie, but it checked all the boxes you needed it to. But you just had to turn your brain off. But I mean, you kind of have to do that because they're doing stuff with cars you couldn't do in real life, like the scene with the helicopters. That couldn't happen in real life. Them helicopters would have taken that daggone car off the road so fast. and it would have been the end of Dom Toretto. He would have just been stuck, and they would have just dipped him in the water or something. Like they didn't have to worry about it. Among other things, like the nuke, the tactical nuke. Like I know we play video games, and you can use tactical nuke on a video game, and you still be alive, but that's not real. It's just not real. That's not how it happens. And then they were looking for him after they were in a tactical nuke. In the real world, if you were in a tactical nuke, they could test you, they could follow you because they got radiometers and stuff. They're like, yo, you are glowing right now, sir. Like literally glowing.
Oh my gosh. And I can't believe I haven't touched on this either. Cause I mean, I don't feel like it's getting enough attention. Is they made a a kid a homicidal maniac in this
Yeah,
film. I'm like,
yeah.
that was completely
Casual murder.
irresponsible as an
Casual
uncle,
murder.
as an uncle to allow your
Casual
nephew
murder.
to cause that much
Push a
mayhem.
button.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so he's okay,
He was
cool.
like,
So
and he
we have
said
an
it's
accused
okay to
murderer.
cuss when you
Cool.
kill people. It's okay to cuss when you kill them. That's what he said.
That's horrible. Like now I understand like he's supposed to be like the cool uncle, but I'm like,
Not the
come
homicidal
on,
uncle.
bro. Like you gotta be more
Yeah.
responsible than that. Like, can he at least reach like adulthood before he's like as to
Yeah, be like Jerome on Snowfall. Don't be like this uncle where he's
right?
like, yeah, you 12, you're
I
going to be
forgot
a
all about
murderer.
that. I'm like, what? So is wow, okay, so we're doing this now. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it
So
was
kids
crazy.
are homicidal
So,
maniacs.
so the
Cool.
question is, did John Cena die there?
It's Fast and Furious, man. What do you think?
No, he's still alive.
If they've managed to bring, think about this.
They
The
brought back Michelle
only
Rodriguez.
character
Only one that
who
they
was
haven't brought back
actually the only
is
character
somebody
who
who's
was
actually
actually
dead.
not come back was in the first movie, and that was who's the guy's name? The young cat, the guy who like helped the mechanic who helped to like come up with the designs of the cars. I can't think of
Yeah,
his name.
yeah. I don't remember him, but
But
yeah.
but he was, if you think about it, that's the only actual casualty we've had in the whole franchise. Every other, minus the villains, obviously, most of the villains, he's everyone has come back.
Everybody dies and comes
Michelle
back.
Michelle Rodriguez, her character supposedly died. She came back. Who else? The Han supposedly died, came back.
Yep. They literally
Giselle
said in the movie,
supposedly
he said,
died, came
you're
back.
supposed to be a dead man.
Giselle
Yeah.
supposedly died, came back. Like, no, no, no,
Yeah, I don't think he's dead
no,
either.
he's alive.
Yeah.
They'll have, just like they had like in the last movie of trying to explain how Han survived. They'll have some like ridiculous segue of how he like
And
jumped
like,
out of the
the
car
car was
at the
armored. The
last minute,
car was armored. It was built for
or he
explosions.
armored himself with the
Yeah.
car, or he had some type of like clothing on that prevented him from like explode. Like they'll have some explainers, ridiculous explainer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, but all right, sir. But so there we have it, guys. That will wrap up this edition of This Week in Review. Before I let you go, Spills, I'm going to punt it over to you.
All right. This time next week, ladies and gentlemen, the Lakers will be up 3-2.
Right.
And I will serve a literal hat for Brandon to eat because he's going to have to eat a hat because he's going to be so upset that the Lakers won 3 in a row and are looking to close out the series in epic fashion. So tune back in
Sure.
next week, ladies and gentlemen, for a great time. You can find me on Instagram, Truly Spill. I'm a good dude. I have fun, and the Lakers are going to be number one. All right, back to you, Brandon.
All right. There you guys have it. The Lakers are number one. We'll see if they dig themselves out of a 0-2 series. I don't think they will, but we'll see. We shall see. But you can find me at Brendan Troy ENT on Twitter and Brendan Troy _ ENT on Instagram. And also wanted to make an announcement. So uh, coming up for the con that we will have next month, and it's actually local to us here in the nation's capital. It's none other than Awesome Con. So I want to be able to share this up on the screen if it will come up. Here we go. But yes, let's see. Wrong one. Sorry, guys. Here we go. So for uh Awesome Con, for the upcoming Awesome Con for their 2023 uh show, their 10th anniversary, if you will. We are going to be doing a cheesy line reading contest, which we've been doing a couple of years. Been collaborating with Geek Night Out. Shout out to them. So make sure that you make it out there. It's going to be happening on Friday or June 16th at 9 p.m. in room 202, as you see in this promo here. And yeah, if you enjoy, talking, performing a lot of cheesy lines. If we have any aspiring actors out there who enjoy doing performing cheesy lines, or if you enjoy watching people perform those lines, make sure to make it out there. As I said, it's happening on Friday night, so day one of uh, of Awesome Con. So make sure that you make it out there. Other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and of course, see you guys soon.
Peace, 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 peace. 5 stars. Don't
Peace.
forget. Leave a review. 5 stars. 5 stars. Give us 5 stars.